Everyone, it's Dr. Joe. And on this wonderful Wednesday evening, hope you are doing well wherever you are. And I'm back in the US. Last week I was up in Toronto, Canada. Had a great time. And went to the Caribbean Festival, jumping around, having fun. And I tried to do a live stream there. So I don't know if you saw it, but I had a live stream, which I did. And, spent some time with family and friends and then ultimately just relaxing. So I'm back now, and so today we're going to be talking about what's it called, choosing wisely, factors to evaluate before buying your next residential investment property. That's going to be the focus of today, and I'll explain why I've chose that subject for this week in a couple of minutes. But also I wanted to mention that on August the 26th, I'll be doing a networking event at one of my properties in Washington, D.C. So a little heads up on that one. It's going to be a great event. It's going to be at one of my properties whereby recently a tenant they left after a number of years. She was with me, and she was upgraded from her voucher. No, in fact, she was married. She got married, and then she has to leave and so on. And so we decided to do some upgrades to the house, and I'll be doing a networking event on August 26th at the property. So looking forward to that one. So again, let me know who you are, where you're tuning in from, and I'll definitely give you a little shout out. So again, to everybody, welcome back. I'm back. And so today we're going to talk about factors to consider when buying your next investment property. And the reason why I chose this, as we all know, the market is getting kind of tough. It's very competitive. It's hard to get good deals. Even though the interest rates have gone up, it's still there's just not a whole lot of inventory out there. And whatever inventory is available, if it's a decent deal, there's usually quite a lot of people that want it. So, I talked to one of my students, and the problem is that after a while, you kind of get anxious. You get, I won't call it desperate, but you get anxious that nothing's working. And so if you're not careful, you're just going to go out and buy anything, and therefore you end up with something that really you shouldn't have bought. But it's okay to a certain extent when you are doing buy and hold, because as I always say, you can let time do the heavy lifting. Let time do the heavy lifting. So you can buy something, maybe pay a little bit more today, but 5-10 years from now, you won't even remember the fact that you paid $5,000 or $6,000 or $10,000 or $20,000 more, because the house may have gone up 50, 60, 100, $200,000. So it really doesn't matter so much if you do buy and hold, but it does matter a lot if you're doing the short-term strategy. So investing wisely or choosing wisely is really, I think, an interesting topic to discuss. I'll just say one thing, though. I did get a call today from a real estate agent, kind of cold calling me. Wanted to know if I was buying houses. I said I was. And we had a great discussion. And it came across to me that this person, a real estate agent, they wanted to get into buying properties as opposed to just selling properties. And he kept asking me questions about, what was the best deal that you've ever bought? What neighborhoods do you recommend I buy in, or we buy in, or whatever? And I just said to him, at the end of the day, and he's asking also, what's the cash on cash return that you're looking for? All those metrics, which the gurus tend to push. However, I have obviously a different view on that. I said to him, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day what the spreadsheet says you're going to make on a property. It really doesn't matter, because you can do all the calculations analysis, and according to the spreadsheet, you're going to make a 10%, 12%, 50% cash on cash return, or whatever it is that they say. And I said to him, that sounds good in theory, but in reality, if you get a crappy tenant who doesn't pay you and trashes the house and just drama every other week, and you got that constant turnover, then those returns that you think you're going to get, you're not going to get. In fact, you probably end up with no money, and you may even just get so frustrated that you decide to sell the property. So there's a lot more to it than just the analysis calculations is you got to have the right systems in place, and be able to select the right tenant and manage that tenant relationship such that they stay in your property for a long time. That's the missing link that a lot of people overlook, and that's the reason why I do these live streams, is to kind of address the whole life cycle of the buy and hold model, or the BRRRR model, from the acquisition, um, selection, negotiation, analysis, closing, you know, uh, finding a tenant, not tenant, renovating the house, finding a tenant, all that stuff. It's really, really important. And that's the reason why I do these live streams, to kind of encourage you and show you really what it takes to make this thing happen from a long-term perspective. Because I've been doing this for, 30, 35 plus years. And I have some real world experiences, which is very hard to share unless you've been through it like I have. Okay, anyway, enough of that. So let's talk about the subject today. So investing in real estate, in residential, can be really, enjoyable. It can be very successful. You can be very successful, as we all know, by buying real estate. The key is, is buying it right. In order to buy it right, you got to make informed decisions, such that there's a lot of things to consider, which we'll discuss today as part of that process. So things like the location, the condition, financial feasibility. Does this make any financial sense? The neighborhood, the area, the growth potential, all those things come into play when you look into whether I should buy a property or not. It's not just a matter of, I got a good deal, because good deal is all relative. And so by choosing wisely and conducting thorough due diligence, you can really set yourself up for long-term financial success, long-term wealth building that we all are aspiring to. So let's kind of go through some of these considerations that I think is important. So number one, obviously, is location, location, location. We always say that location, it is really, really important. Because if you make a wrong move here, it could come back to bite you. It can come back to haunt you. There's been many, I recall when I didn't know this, I bought houses in areas where, looking back, I was wondering, why in the world did I buy there? I bought the house, fixed up the house, got it ready, all excited about getting a tenant. I put the ad in, and somebody shows up, or nobody shows up. Nobody shows up, because the neighbors are crappy, or the neighbors are just, or the neighborhood is just not where people want to live. And so now I've got this beautiful house, but nobody wants to live there. Now what do? I'm stuck, so I've got to give out incentives for people to move into my, or at least even come to have a look at my houses. Crazy incentives like free toaster ovens or free vacations, or it's wild. So location is really, really important. The reality is that not all locations are the same. We all know that. And but location is the bedrock. It's the cornerstone, especially if you do a buy and hold strategy. You're looking for long-term appreciation, because a desirable location is what people are looking for. And access to schools, amenities, transportation, proximity to job centers, all those things are important. They're all determined or influenced by the location that you're in. And the location obviously will determine whether, you're going to find it easy or difficult to get a prospective tenant. So you need to do some research into the market trends of the areas that you're looking into. What's the growth projections? Are there any development projections taking place in the foreseeable future? Because once you bought the house, and so unfortunately, you can't change the location. You're stuck with it. So, as I said, one thing I've learned is that I'd rather pay a little bit more, maybe get a little cash flow, less cash flow, but I've got the right location, a better location, because a better location provides benefits in several ways. One, better locations tend to appreciate more. More people want to buy there. More people want to live there, and better locations makes it easier to rent, because more people want to call it their home. If you don't believe me, I'll give you another scenario, and that is I was speaking to a prospective tenant a few weeks ago, and she lived in what I call a tier one neighborhood, which is a desirable location, and but she was very unhappy about the block where or the immediate surroundings where her property was located. So the neighborhood was in a tier one, but particularly where she lived, the block or so, was terrible. Gang activities, drug activities, and although it's a tier one neighborhood, her immediate property is terrible, and she's trying to get out of there. And we just happened to talk, and she was very interested in what I had, and so on. So the location, you absolutely do not want to minimize this. This is going to be the key to your success. And so be careful what you buy, where you buy. Obviously, if you're just starting out, you can only afford what you can. But that's true. You got to start somewhere, and maybe you have to start in a C, D, E neighborhood, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's where you need to end. And so I think that if you can afford, try to get for the better area if you can. You lose some in cash flow because you're going to pay more, but I think you'll gain it back in terms of minimized turnover. You'll gain it back in terms of greater increase in property prices, and you can attract a much better quality tenant in the first place. So number one is the location. Number two is things that you can consider before you pull the trigger and buy a house is the property condition itself. And how do you do that? You do an inspection. Okay. So the physical condition of the house is a very important critical criteria as well in terms of what you buy. And so in order to if you're a novice, if you don't know, then obviously you're gonna probably reach out to an inspector, home inspector, who they're going to do their own due diligence and reports and provide you with information about the condition of the house, what maintenance is required, if any repairs are needed, if there's any structural issues, if there's any plumbing, electrical issues, maintenance and of the property and so on. So if you're not careful, and I've learned this the hard way as well, you may buy a house that it's not the greatest condition because you were in a haste, and next thing you know, a $20,000 renovation now becomes $40,000, $50,000 because you're finding stuff which you didn't know, and this property is no longer, it's now becoming what we call a money pit. It's just burning your money, and so on. So by investing in a thorough inspection, you can sort of negotiate repairs to the price of the property before you actually purchase the property. So property condition and inspection is a consideration. Next one you want to consider is rental demand and income potential. What is the demand? Is there a demand if you're going to hold it for people to want to rent there? Is it a rental community? Is it a homeowner community? Do people want to live there? Due to proximity to amenities such as school, shopping, recreation, transportation, all those things. So that's something you may want to consider is there a demand? Do people want to live there? To find that out, you can speak to property management companies, you can speak to real estate agent, you can do your own due diligence to find out, go on Zillow and see how many properties are out there for rent and things like that. Investigate the local rental rates, occupancy levels, and gauge whether there is a demand or there's no demand. Because obviously properties with strong rental demand and especially limited vacancy are likely to offer you consistent cash flow and consistent demand. That was a crux of my business model. I wanted to have properties that's in high demand but low supply. You follow me? High demand. So that's why I like 4, 5, and 6 bedroom houses, because there's enough voucher holders, at least in Washington, D.C., with 4, 5, and 6 bedroom vouchers, but there's low supply of those houses. And therefore, people with 4, 5, and 6 bedroom vouchers were having a hard time finding decent houses in decent parts of town. And that's the reason why I decided to focus on that niche and so on. Okay. Number 3 is rental demand investigate those occupancy level, and so on. Number 4 is potential for appreciation. You know me, I think the real money in real estate at the end of the day is the appreciation. It's nice to get $100, $200, $300, $400 a month cash flow. But to me, the real money is buying something for 100,000 that 5-10 years from now is worth 150 to 200,000, and and holding on to that asset, and therefore realizing a lot of the benefits associated with that, whether it be tax benefits, cash flow, ability to leverage, the appreciation, equity build, all those things are benefits, from owning that asset. But the appreciation, in my opinion, is where the real money, lies. And not all areas appreciate the same; they just don't. And and so on. So don't underestimate the importance of appreciation. Now, what causes the property appreciation? Supply and demand, obviously, local job growth, because at the end of the day, real estate prices tend to be very closely linked to the strength of the local economy. Infrastructure development, what's going on local wise, community enhancements that's taking place in the area. All those things contribute to the long-term appreciation potential for your property. Number 5 is financial feasibility. Does this make an ROI? Does this make sense to buy this house? Crunch the numbers, do the analysis. There's a bunch of different calculators out there, and the Bigger Pockets has one. Deal Check IO has one, a pretty nice one. There's quite a few of them. You can run the numbers, plug it in terms of the expenses like mortgages, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, management, and so on, versus the income coming in. Does it make sense? If it does, we're good. Does it cash flow? Yes or no? If so, how much cash flow can you get? Is it break even? Are you okay with break even? All those things are important. And so you can calculate your expected returns, but also don't forget there are other considerations like tax benefits, appreciation, leverage, and all those things. And also whether you want to start developing or building a portfolio. Depending on where you are, you could be in the growth stage where you're building your portfolio, or you could be towards the end whereby you're just stabilizing your portfolio. But all those things, you got to run through the calculator and make sure it makes sense financially. Okay, so let's just do a quick summary. But before get your questions ready, I'm going to go to the live Q&A session in about 5 or 10 minutes. So get your questions loaded up, because many times people have questions, we just run out of time. So please put your question if you got towards me or for me now, and I'll try to answer them very, very shortly. So let's just kind of go through quickly where we are. We talked about the factors are, the idea is choose wisely before buying your next residential property. And what are the considerations? We talked about location. We talked about property condition and inspection. We also talked about, is there a demand, rental demand, and what's the income potential? We also talked about the potential for appreciation. And then we also talked about the financial feasibility. Does this make sense financial wise and numbers wise? So again, put your questions in the chat box. I will try to get to them very, very shortly. Number 6 is the market research and trends. What's going on? Your own due diligence, your own marketing. You need to be aware of the broader real estate market in your community, your city, your neighborhood, the state, the US. What are the unique economic trends that's taking place? So really, what I'm saying is that you need to be current with the market conditions, supply and demand dynamics, also factors that affect property that we talked about earlier on. On the micro and also on the macro level, because this knowledge, it really does make a difference in terms of what you buy and where you buy and why you buy. I'm in the Washington, D.C. market. The market here is pretty strong. It's an appreciating market, so prices tend to appreciate over time. Yes, we go through cycles, but overall, the trend is always up, especially if you look through a 5 to 7 to 10 year spread. And so I'm okay with that. I'm at peace with that. And as a result of that, I want to just buy and hold it. and let my money work for myself or work for itself. And it's just great to know, for example, so this month, the last couple of months, I've been to 3 countries. I've been to Mexico, I went to London, gone to Toronto in the past few weeks. And, that's not to brag or anything, but the important thing is that while I do all those stuff, the properties are appreciating in value. Money's coming in through rents, and there are tax benefits which I'm accruing. So all those things are you know are working for me, and it can work for you as well if you're able to start now and start buying and holding it. Sorry. So, but that kind of delves into market research and trends. That is my area in Washington D.C. But obviously, the dynamics where you are could be completely different. So, but you need to be aware of the trends, and sometimes you just have to sell and be a little bit ahead of the curve if it need be. Number 7, we talked about the neighborhood dynamics. So kind of go more to the micro level now. Neighborhoods, what's going on in your neighborhood where this property is located? Is it safe? Is it dangerous? Or is it a neighborhood where it's attracting people? Are people moving in or people moving out? Are they attracting tenants? Or are they attracting homeowners? What's the crime rates? What's the neighborhood demographics in your area? What's the amenities that's available there? All those things. Is it a sort of safe, well-maintained neighborhood? Do people care for their properties, or they just let it go? All those things can kind of increase tenant satisfaction, which means that you need to be aware of it in determining whether you want to buy there. As I said before, you don't want to find out all these negative things after you've purchased the house. You don't. Been there, done that. It's not pleasant. Number 8, let's have 723. Number 8, zoning, economic, future developments. I put that in here because zoning can make a big difference in terms of what can be built where you're located or where your property is located, and what's the trends. Are there permits being being requested for that area? Is there development activity that's taking place? Obviously, you can check things like the local zoning regulations. You can look for potential upcoming developments that may be going on that could impact your property values. Are there any new construction activities or changes in zoning that can affect the neighborhood characteristics and also potentially property prices as well? So just be aware of future zoning considerations. I'm not saying that you should live down at the zoning office. No, I'm just saying that these are factors that could help you in deciding whether to go ahead and purchase this property or not. Number 9, property management considerations. It's my favorite one. As you know, I manage all my own properties myself. Why? Because I just haven't found a good management company that I want to give my properties to. I'm not saying there aren't any good management companies. It's just that their considerations or their considerations may be different. Their agendas may be different than my agenda. And I just haven't had luck. And my brother, the story. He bought a property, and for the first couple of years, 3 or 4 years, he gave it to a management company. Like clockwork, every year the people would leave, and so he have the turnover costs. He's got to paint the place again. He's got to clean it. He's got advertise. There's no income coming through, and they wiped out all the cash flow that he made. So he asked me to manage it for him. I did. And the same tenant's been there for about 14 or 15 years now. So I just haven't had that success. It's your property at the end of the day, and in my opinion, who should be concerned about your property? It should be you. I don't think you shouldn't expect somebody else to be concerned about your property more than their property. So I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but I'm just saying that sometimes just giving it to a property management company is not going to solve all your problems. It's not. If anything, you probably want to manage the management company if you're going to give it to a management company. And number 10 is the exit strategy. What's your exit strategy for this house that you intend to buy? It's clear that it should be clear in your mind what the exit strategy should be. How long do you intend to hold the property for? What's the potential resale value of the property? What's the market conditions that could influence your ability to sell the property, in a appropriate time. Me, for example, I'm looking at if I have a turnover of one of my properties, I look, say, is this a time now to sell this property, or is it time to continue keeping it? Everyone's different, but you need to be aware of you should have an exit strategy, whether it's to fix and flip, buy and hold, lease option, whatever it is. But just make sure that your exit strategy is consistent with your overall goals. So with that said, my friends, conclusion. Choosing the right residential investment property, I think, is critical. And it really does. It demands careful consideration of various factors, lots of different factors, which I've talked about. I've talked about 10 different factors today. These things like location potential. We talked about the property condition. We talked about rental demand. We talked about financial viability, the market trends. You need to conduct a comprehensive due diligence before it's part of that evaluation process. And as you're doing that evaluation process, there's a lot of complicated things to consider. It's not always easy, but I wanted to at least share some of the things which I think are important because I want you to be successful. At the end of the day, there's a lot of opportunities out here, and I think you can do it. I think we can do it. And I believe that, with the right team, the right network, the right relationships, and the right systems in place, you can be successful also. So with that said and done, my friends, I want to see you at the top. If I can be of assistance on your journey, please let me know. So put your questions in the chat box, and I'm going to get to them right now. So what's it called? Put your questions in there. Again, if you want to shoot me an email, you can reach me at joe@joeasamoah.com, joe@joeasamoah.com, and I'll be more than happy to respond. I'm not always the greatest, but shoot me an email. I'll try to respond. Obviously, I'm available on Instagram and also on Facebook as well, on social media. So again, let's go to Q&A, but you can shoot me an email if you need to reach out to me at joe@joeasamoah.com. And I do, again, I will be doing a networking event August 26th at one of my properties. It's going to be a great one. Chance to educate, learn, and also a chance to network with like-minded people. We did an event a couple of months ago, and that turned out to be very, very successful. And so I want to do it again at this next property. So hopefully I'll see you there, August 26th. I'll give you more information next week. And but if you are interested, just shoot me an email, and I'll be more than happy to get it to you when the time is, once I have all the stuff together. Okay, so let's go to the Q&A. Hello from Houston. Hi, DCC. Hope you're doing well. Hey, Dr. Joe. Hopefully Canada is great. Canada is, well, I'm in the US now. Canada was great. It was great. I had a great time. Weather's a little bit chilly, but it was in like kind of low 70s. It was so a little chilly, especially at nighttime. But we had a great time, great fun. I really loved Toronto, and hopefully I'll go back there again in the near future. Valerie McMullen, would you invest in mobile homes? I don't know too much about mobile homes, Valerie. I don't know that niche. I don't have any experience in that niche. So I don't think I'm the best person to give you a yay or nay on that one. There are people who are making money in mobile homes. So I would suggest that you reach out to some of those folks and find out what differentiates what they're doing from other people who aren't doing that great. And maybe they can give you some secrets, insider secrets that can help you. One thing I do know, though, is that the grass is always greener on the other side until you get there. And then it's the same old, same old. Making money is not easy. It takes time, it takes hard work. And a lot of people don't want to hear that. They just want the good stuff. They want the quick stuff, the glitter, the gold, but don't want to put the hard work to get there. But I'm just telling you that real estate, it just takes hard work. It takes time. It takes persistence. It takes confidence. It takes belief in yourself. And we all can do that. And my goal is to help you on your journey. Okay, where can we find the August 26th network details? We don't see anywhere. The reason why you don't see anywhere is because it's not advertised anywhere yet. So it's going to be on my website probably sometime next week. But shoot me an email at joe@joeasamoah.com, or you go to my website and just be add to my my mailing list. And once all the details have been put out there, I'll share it with everybody on my that's on my mailing list. So if you don't get my regular weekly emails, then please go to my website, which is joeasamoah.com, and sign up to be on my newsletter list, and I'll make sure that you get the information once it's out there. Or you can shoot me an email. Where is the best area in Baltimore to buy properties right now, Valerie? I don't know Baltimore, Valerie. I don't know Baltimore. I don't own anything in Baltimore. All my stuff are in the D.C. metro area. That's Washington, D.C., Montgomery County, and Prince George's County. So I'm not really the best person to advise you about Baltimore. So you may want to go to a real estate investor association meeting in the Baltimore area, where there are people there who actually invest and live in Baltimore who can probably give you some better advice than I can. So I'm sorry about that. Can you please put the names of those calculators in the chat? Thanks. Okay, Bigger Pockets has a calculator. There's the Deal Check IO. So I'm gonna Deal Check. Just do a search on real estate calculators and a Google search. You'll probably find quite a few out there. The two that I'm familiar with are the Bigger Pockets one and the Deal Check.io. DEAL check CHECK.io. And they have a pretty nice set of calculators. Some of them are free until you get to a certain number of analysis, then you have to pay. Bigger Pockets, I think, limit you to 5 before you, unless you're a pro member where you have unlimited access. And so check out some of these calculators out there. But calculators are calculators. It's theory. Theory and the real world are sometimes two completely different things. So I wouldn't get too caught up in, well, the analysis says this. Yes, it may say that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's how it's going to be in the end. I'm in the DMV too, specifically in Hyattsville. How do you find your deals? Okay, I'm in DMV, Hyattsville. I got a property in Hyattsville. I know I bought some properties in Hyattsville. Hyattsville's kind of hot, especially in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years. It's just outside Washington, D.C., on the Maryland side, Prince George's County side. They have a subway close by, a lot of shops, recreation, transportation. It's not too far from the University of Maryland, and so on. So how do I find my deals? Networking, speaking with real estate agents, wholesalers. I mean, I'm looking for deals just as much as you are, Valerie. It's hard. It's not easy. So there's no magic sauce there. It's just grunt work and networking and so on. If the voucher program approves the tenant for $2,800 and you're only advertising for $2,400, will the voucher program use the excess $400 towards the rent utilities if the tenant doesn't pay 1 month? No. The way it works is that you can request a certain rent, in this case $2,400. But if the max is $2,800, I would request the max and let them come down. But that's what I would do anyway. I'll leave it up to you. But sometimes what they advertise and what they actually give you are two different things. Sometimes they advertise the rent including utilities, so the higher amount may be including utilities, whereas you may say, well, I'm not going to pay utilities. In that case, then you will not get the higher amount. You'll get the lower amount, which is the without utility rate. So it just depends. Each jurisdiction is different. So I would strongly recommend that you speak to Housing Choice Voucher Program caseworkers in your area to give you the latest. Okay. Are you looking for more properties to buy? Yes, I sure am. Valerie, if you got some deals, please bring them my way. Dow too. Or does that extra 400 is just no longer involved once you and your tenant sign a lease? I'm just trying to verify something a tenant told me. Tenant is telling me that the voucher will step in. You got to be careful. No, not necessarily. Just because you go lower doesn't mean that they're going to pay the utilities. No, there are two rates. Again, you need to speak to somebody, a caseworker in your area. I wouldn't rely on what the tenant's telling you. I would verify. You can trust but verify, and let them tell you how they calculate, how they determine their rents in your local jurisdiction. DCC, if you're your own property manager and you are holding over 10 properties, How do you have the time to find new deals? The reason why I have time is because I've got good systems. I have good tenants, tenants that aren't hounding me every day, tenants who aren't tenants from hell. These are good quality tenants who are just happy to be living in my homes. They're grateful to be there, and they're the tier one tenants. If you have tier one tenants, believe me, it doesn't take a lot of time. They don't need a lot of oversight. They're just good people. They're just looking for a nice house in a nice area and a good landlord to rent from. If you are that and you do your side of the deal, for the most part, they will do their side of the deal. And most of my tenants are voucher holders. And so most of their rents are guaranteed. In fact, all the rents are guaranteed by the state or the housing authority or HUD. And I'm just responsible for collecting the rest from the tenant. And they all pay on time. So most of them do anyway. Perfect answer to my question. Thank you, Datu. Okay, my friends, it is now 7:37. I'm going to wrap it up for today. And I will see you next Wednesday. Don't forget, August 26th, we're going to have a networking event. So please shoot me an email or go to joe@joeasamora.com or go to my website next week for more information. Have a good night. Take